So obviously some serious problems. Financial ruin. I have a friend who, not a friend, he was somebody that came to see me. His game was Red Alert, Command and Conquer Red Alert. And there are Command and Conquer Red Alert tournaments. Okay? And he would go in these tournaments and he would win. And you can win money. And so he had this job, he was making like 70 grand a year, and he had saved all his money, built up this very impressive 401k, he was in his late 20s, and he decided to stop working and use this very large 401k for somebody his age to allow him to live and focus entirely on Command and Conquer Red Alert because he was going to go pro. And so obviously he went for the money, and he did go pro, but he doesn't make any money doing it. He makes, pittance, but anyway, so there you go. That you got a lot of, if you have teenagers, they'll tell you these stories about people who went pro. Oh yeah, he's signed. He's representing, such and such organization. I mean, I'm telling you, it is happening, where people are getting sponsorships by video game companies and the really, really good kids, and you can make a living at it. But it's even, the percentage of people that get to that level, it's even less than like the basketball players who make it to pro, or the rock and roll bands who end up making a living. I mean, it's that same ilk. But kids think it's possible. So obviously, if you've dealt with this, you know that once you get an addicted person with video games, it doesn't give up its hold easily. So steps toward recovery. Obviously, most of the people that engage in these behaviors take elaborate steps to stay in denial. Me, I'm delving into history. I played a game called Gettysburg, where I was reenacting the battles of the Civil War. I'm delving into history. This is great. I'm augmenting my historical knowledge, and this is going to help me with my students because I'm going to be really good at the Civil War. I'm going to go pro is another great one. I don't have a problem, obviously. They can't see it. So friends help me come out of denial. And obviously, the first thing is, if you think you have an addict, you got to stop enabling. So one of the things that I tell a lot of parents is, look, if you got an addict in your house and you've allowed your kids to continue these behaviors and you haven't confronted them, maybe you need to look at yourself before you try to help your kid. Okay? All right. There we go. So here are some recommendations that I make, and obviously I wish I had 2 hours, I only have one. If you have parents, counsel them to begin discussions about the subject when kids are young. Talk about it. Talk about, your Jimmy, the kid down the street who plays video games so much that he's flunking out of school. Make it a regular topic of discussion so that kids understand the dangers and so that you start to sensitize your kids to those possibilities when they're very young, just like you do with drugs or anything else. Sharing versus lecture. Just share stuff with kids. And part of what you can do as a parent is, if you can't beat them, join them. Look, if you got kids that are playing video games and you don't know how to play video games, you're missing a significant part of youth culture. So maybe you should have your kid teach you how to play and play something with your kids so that you begin to partake of that aspect of youth culture so that you can be in it a little bit, and that'll give you a great connection with your kid. All the kids, if there's a dad who knows how to play video games, boy, that's a popular dad. Or a mom, I'm not discriminating here. That's a popular parent who knows a thing or two about video games. Play with the kids. Talk to them. Tell them about issues that have come up where you've heard of other kids having trouble so they understand, and then maybe you can talk to them when there is a problem, and you'll have a lot more credibility if you've already been building the groundwork. Obviously, you're going to have to restrict playtime, and one of the advantages of letting your kids continue to play video games is that it's a great tool. Sure, if you go to, Dr. Robin and I were talking, he had to go to school because he wasn't going to school, so if he went to school, he could have his Xbox on that day. Oh, sure. If you have no missing assignments on Friday, you can video game into the wee hours of the weekend, whatever. But it's a great tool to use. It's a great carrot and stick method. And again, going back to the enablers, we parents, we don't often understand our role in continuing the addiction. And obviously, if you think there's a problem, you got to challenge it and you got to get outside help. So, I put together a little thing here. It's much more detailed than this, and a lot of you are going to be familiar with this kind of a thing. But I recommend what I call sort of a behavioral modification plan. And I like to put it, I've had people do things where they make up a big poster board and have it laminated, and then kids, obviously what we're talking about is you incentivize behavior. So if you do A, you get 30 minutes of video game time. If you get an A on a math test, you get 25 minutes, whatever it is. So we're going to move on because we're almost out of time. Let's just look at the spreadsheet. So here's just a spreadsheet, okay? So when the kids, obviously the time to start is when the kid's young. I mean, you don't want to have your first discussions about alcohol, sex, and drugs when your kid's 17. Okay? Same thing is true of video games. You start talking when the kid's young, and you get involved in that part of your kid's life, the video game part of that life. So, okay, A on a math test, 2 hours and a video game time. Homework done without asking. Isn't that a big one for parents? You got to always ask. So if they do it and you didn't ask them, that's 30 minutes. 30-minute bike ride gets 30 minutes of video game time, because a lot of parents whose kids are in a video game say, well, one of the problems is my kid doesn't get enough exercise. So you incentivize it. You say, okay, do 30 minutes of a bike ride, then you get 30 minutes on the video game. So on and so forth. And you can see doing chores without being asked. You put limits on it. There's a max. You can bank the time, but there's a maximum amount you can use per day. And then on the weekends, you increase the amount of time that they can use. But this is just a basic idea. I think parents should use video games as the powerful tool that they are. Okay? Jake, who's the one in Iraq, very powerful young man now. Wonderful. And I just seeing that quote gives me a little chill, because I think about how the dire straits that he was in and how his video game abilities led to great success. Jake said, the world needs people like us. Okay? Meaning the video game adepts. So if you have a young person, or you have parents with young children, that seems to be along the video game end of the spectrum, look for summer classes at local high schools, community colleges, and universities. Okay? Because you take those skills and start developing them. These are great skills, Johnny. We're going to send you to this program so that you can develop them, so that you can use them in your life. Computer camps for kids are all over the place. I mean, University of Michigan has them. There's a really good one at university. They have a whole variety of programs. Also, you can enroll your kids in programs that have networking, servers, website design, and even video game design and development. So they're using an interest to build skills. Computer skills are invaluable nowadays. This is a great one. Okay, and this is one that if you are a parent, or you're counseling parents, or you have parents who are bringing their kids to you for professional services, the one common denominator, I think, to people who end up playing video games excessively is that they long for adventure, and video games provide them with the adventure for which they long. When I was a kid, everybody rode bikes. We would ride bikes, and parents told us we could only go to 7 Mile Road. Boy, we were going to 9 Mile in Southfield, and we were going to discover new territory. And I think that life, when I was growing up, boy, I'm going to make a very good old man someday, back in my day. But no, I think that life was a little more exciting. There was more adventure to be had when I was growing up. And I think one of the great deficits in our culture today is that, we have play dates now. You have to schedule time to play with your kid. Parents don't want their children roaming the streets anymore. So you have to create real adventures for your kids. The extent to which parents can help kids create real adventures, I think, will help mitigate the influence that video games might eventually exert. Paintball is a great one, especially once you get above like 11, 12. Paintball is great. Hunting. I'm not a hunter, but boy, it's a great thing for a lot of kids. Laser tag. I take my ADHD kids that come to see me. We go to laser tag every couple months. It's great. It's real adventure. It's exciting. It's exhilarating. GPS scavenger hunt. I've done that with my students, and I've actually had parents who ran with that and have done that as well. That's where you hide things using a GPS, and you break up into teams, and you find the different objects. That's real adventure. Making movies and putting them up on YouTube. This is great. I have a father who has taken my advice, and they go out and make goofy movies, where they talk in different accents and stuff, at malls and, do different characters, and they put them up on YouTube just for fun. But this is real adventure, as opposed to the manufactured and artificial adventure that you find online. I think this is a crucial step, and I think it's something that as a culture we need to be more aware of.